Well, I'm a small little business and I facilitate business and investment between Australia and emerging countries, particularly the 4 BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India and China. And I was invited to come today to sort of give an overview of why I think the BRICS are going to impact the agricultural sector and to hopefully encourage everybody to start thinking about the BRICS as a future opportunity for investment and future exports. Well, from an agricultural perspective, perhaps the standout is Brazil. Brazil is rapidly increasing their production capability from a very low base. And Brazil has enormous agricultural and arable resources that they're not really yet able to fully cultivate. And I think a really interesting opportunity right now is for Australia to start exporting its capabilities to help Brazil move up the value chain and to increase their production and increase efficiency and cost savings along the way.
I think it's fair to say Australian primary production has always been inward looking, inward focused.
Yeah.
I see during the past week there's efforts to reach out across the Tasman to our Kiwi cousins. It's fascinating to me that you suggest there are opportunities for Australian producers in Brazil. Can you give us some examples?
Well, Brazil is a very similar kind of economy to ours. It's an economy dominated by resources and agriculture. Very similar. So, I feel that Australian agricultural producers turning up in Brazil would find a sector that's quite similar to ours, except going back 50 years in terms of its efficiency, machinery, and investment. And that's where I think the opportunity is, not necessarily to invest in the land or the product, but to help the Brazilians become more efficient in their farming capabilities. And we're seeing many examples of the opportunity throughout Brazil, particularly as you move away from the East Coast, which is where much of their sort of urban centres are, into their sort of agricultural heartland, which is more towards the west.
Okay, so looking quickly then at the other markets, India has often in the past been compared with China, and they're quite dissimilar, I think, in many ways, apart from their population base. But what the attraction India has is it's a great democracy. Can you give us a bit of a thumbnail sketch of the agricultural production sector in those countries?
In India? India has a long way to go, I think, in terms of their agricultural production. The opportunity, as I see it in India, is their massive consumption boom that's taking place. There's 600 million new consumers coming onto the global market, looking for more sophisticated products, looking for, changing their diets, looking for Western style production or product to be available. With their shopping malls and their supermarkets and their big grocery stores starting to emerge, I think that the significant opportunity is more around exports to India, and I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next 20 to 30 years.
Quickly, can we go to Russia? I mean, Moscow's a long way from Moree. What synergies are there between Australian production and production in Russia? We picture Russia as being a very distant country.
Yes. Well, as it happens, there's an enormous amount of export of live cattle into Russia. I was in St. Petersburg a couple of years ago and visited a farm where a lot of cattle from South Adelaide is now, a very big part of their imports there. And apparently Australian cattle thrive really well in the Russian harsh winters, which I thought was interesting, considering they come out of a pretty harsh climate here. I think that in the live cattle area, there's still significant upside, but also Russia, remember that Russia is an enormous landmass. It stretches, from almost Scandinavia all the way to east of New Zealand. And as more of their agricultural land becomes available for production, I think Russia will actually become more an Asian country than a European country. When that happens and Russia starts to integrate into the Asia Pacific, I think there's going to be enormous opportunities, and I don't think Russia will continue to be seen as a remote country.
So on one of your charts today, you actually positioned the Australian continent in this geopolitical shift that's occurred since the 50s and 60s, when the world had formerly, before World War II, has been run by Great Britain and America.
Yeah.
So that's very much a theme of what you've been saying today, is that the opportunities are in this neighbourhood in terms of the hemispheres.
Well, yes, I put Australia right in the middle of the region. You know, Russia, China and India to our north and to our west, and Brazil to our east. We're now right in the zone that really matters in the next 100 years or so. Let's not forget Indonesia, which is right on our doorstep, a country that has, you know, significant numbers of people and now capital, but not enough land. And we have the land and the capital too. In theory, Indonesia and Australia could become a brick in their own right if we were more integrated. So I agree. I think looking forward, Australia has to play a significant role in in all sectors, but particularly in agricultural production right across the Asia-Pacific region.
So if I was a young entrepreneurial farm boy today, would you be suggesting I get down to the international airport, jump on a plane and head for Rio and go and have a look around?
I think Rio would be a great place to start. It's a great city. To be serious though, I think I used to say to young people, go to Shanghai. Shanghai, go and start some kind of career. In 5 years' time, you'll thank me forever that you made that break and you got involved. If I was in the agricultural sector and I was a young man, I would be heading to Brazil. Not necessarily to Rio, perhaps to Sao Paulo, which is the kind of industrial heart of Brazil, and look for opportunities in the agricultural sector. I think they will be enormous, and they'll find that they're bringing something and bringing some experience and knowledge and capability that everybody will welcome. That's what I'd be doing if I was young enough.